Inside Hilltopper Athletics is brought to you by Panhandle Cleaning and Restoration. Here's your host, Lynn.
Welcome to Inside Hilltopper Athletics. This is our basketball edition on Tuesday morning. As always, we'll lead off with head women's coach Kyle Cooper. Coach, interesting week, but let's backtrack and go to last Wednesday with a convincing win over Salem. So, as always, give us your thoughts on the game.
Yeah, I think it was a good time for us to get that. Tough week the week prior. We've been playing a lot better basketball since coming back from break, but haven't always got the reward, the outcome that you might want. And I thought that was about as close to a complete game as you can get. We all know there's those moments when you're up big in the fourth quarter that it happens. But aside from that, you take that out, I think it was a pretty complete game. Really pleased with what we did. And you got to see a lot of different players rewarded with good performances and ultimately the collective performance of getting a big win. And then hopefully that's springboarding us into some more success here continually.
Salem came into the game, and although they didn't have an outstanding record, we had referenced on the air a number of times during the broadcast, this was a dangerous team. This was a team that made a comeback, took you to overtime down there, and then you pulled it out. They also, I think, was ahead of Charleston or Fairmont at the half.
I believe it was Fairmont.
So it was a dangerous team. So what did you do well enough that you pretty much put that away early and coasted?
And I think that's part of it is I think we've talked a lot about our veterans on this team and what this team's been through adversity-wise and where we're at and all of those things. I thought we did a nice job of controlling what we've been talking about controlling, and that's they didn't look at the record, they respected the opponent. And you referenced it, very, very dangerous team. They got some serious players. They don't have depth. And I think that's where we were able to get them is we made their best players earn things, and in turn we were able to get into their legs. And I thought we played with a ton of bounce that game. I thought we looked good and we were flying around. And in turn, again, like you said, we don't have some of the moments that the Charlestons and the Fairmonts had recently against Salem, and we're able to just kind of control the game.
Well, if you read our sports information director's articles online, I believe the headline for that game had something to do with ball movement. So talk a little bit about how important ball movement is in your system.
I think that was probably one of the more premier games even in our tenure, 27 assists on 35 made shots that I think it ended up. Right. When you're doing that, you're able to move that ball. Great things happen. I think you saw some of the wrinkles that we've put in as we've evolved as a team without a true post. We got a ton of curl cuts. We got a ton of second actions to extra passes. And when we're playing that way and sharing the basketball and able to get in a flow like that, we're able to show just how dangerous we are offensively. But I still think it came down to getting stops and making them earn things on the defensive end and not giving them second chances that allows us to play that way too.
We pretty much coasted in that game, won by 20-some points. Of course, then it's back to action on Sunday. The game was moved one day because West Liberty hosted the MEC Wrestling Championships. You welcome the Wheeling University Cardinals in, who were playing to remain in first place in the Mountain East Conference. Again, another crazy, interesting game. You fell in overtime, so walk us through that.
Yeah, I think when you look at that game, really frustrating as a coach, really frustrating as a player because you feel like you did more than enough to win the game. And when you go back and watch it, you feel the same way. And I think the one thing that stands out for me is just the level of fight our players have. I mean, we had players playing 40-plus minutes of basketball and still killing themselves to win, which is no shock to us. We know what these players are made of. And two huge performances between Carly and Corinne, and just respect the heck out of the fact that they kept fighting through a lot of adversity because it was a really messy game. Ton of stoppages, messy game to officiate, so feel for them. Wheeling has some antics, some tactics that muck up the game more, but two clashes of styles of play, and we were able to generate a lot of stops. I mean, there was a stretch in the third quarter we got like 12 to 13 stops in a row, or forced a turnover. And then there's another stretch in the fourth where all they're getting is some free throws here or there, and just had moments where we just couldn't capitalize on the offensive end. But one of the things, and I've mentioned it to you guys, is we managed to play that game, and they had three runs of 7-0, 8-0, and 7-0. One in the first to start the game, one in the third to end the game, and one in the fourth under three. That you remove those points, that was a third of their scoring. And the rest of the game, we just play so well, but they play that grinded out style that cost us to just have some kind of ups and downs of shooting the basketball. And ultimately, we just don't get the reward that I thought our players deserve. But you got to really respect the heck out of what our players were able to do in that game, because it was messy and we weathered adversity and still had a chance.
Well, one of the things, because we were getting this question a lot up on where we broadcast, at the end of regulation, it looked like Wheeling's going to win this game, but you guys hung in there. So tell the viewers kind of what happened.
I don't even remember. No, it was one of those things where it was those moments we just talked about. So it was the end of the third quarter. You have one where you get up by 5 and you work really hard through that stretch of stops, and all of a sudden they go on an 8-0 run that you're down 3 headed into the fourth. Same thing happened. We got up 4, had a chance to push it to 7 with a good look, and then out of nowhere they go on that next run of 7-0, where just some things don't go our way. A weird bounce occurs with a basketball. I don't know what happened there. It's just moments like that that are just crazy, that no matter how hard you work, now all of a sudden we're in a position where it's back and forth and you got to find a way, and then crazy things happen. We're able to generate a couple good looks. We hit some tough shots. Hats off to Corinne for a couple big time moments there. They respond, and then obviously the technical throws a whole nother wrinkle.
Well, that's where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
So you're down 6, you're down 4
Yeah.
with 15, 20 seconds left. You get to the basket, make a layup. You were calling a timeout, correct?
So we had to have an opportunity to get a stop, get a plan in play to foul, so that we knew what we needed to do to try to have a chance here. And obviously the opposing team did not feel that the timeout was warranted. And the way the game played out there, kind of animated, passionate. I think it's a tough place to call it technical, but the technical was issued, which obviously benefits us and gives us the basketball after 2 huge free throws by Corinne.
Right, I think that was the next question. And in fairness to everybody asking that question, I was kind of clueless too. I've been out of coaching long enough, and they've changed the technical rule multiple times.
Yeah.
The severity of it. Even I was shocked that you got the 2 free throws and the ball.
Yeah, and obviously we knew what was coming, because in that moment where all the officials are coming together and talking about it, we're sitting there as a staff and I'm going, no, it's going to be our ball. Corinne's going to hit these free throws, and we're already drawing up what we want to get. Now, hats off to Wheeling. They got us out of sync there, but we still generate a similar look to what we were hoping to get. We were just hoping it wasn't with 4 seconds left. And then, kind of the randomness of how everything goes, and this is where, if you're not familiar with the rules, everything looks even messier. So she then calls a timeout. Because the dribble happened and they attempted to advance the basketball, she can't advance it up the sideline to draw up a play. Thank God the timeout was warranted, because we must have thought we were down and we had a player attempt to foul, which would have made it really interesting. And then they, again, unaware of the situation, inbound, hoping to call a timeout in advance, which that's already out the window. So for the viewers, that is how that all transpires, which means they then have to try to score now with under 4 seconds length of floor, despite their hope was they could advance the basketball. And they still got a good look. We kind of blew an assignment on a cut there, but luckily nothing goes in, and then it goes to overtime, and more of the same moments. Battling, hitting a big shot here or there when it looks like we're going to go down 3 possessions, get a stop, hit a shot, and just some things didn't go our way. But hats off, because we had some players in some positions they've never been in before, with Natalia and with Soph, and I thought they rose to the occasion and gave us an opportunity, and they followed the lead of those veterans of Corinne and Carly, which is what you do in that situation.
Well, it was a thrilling game, and unfortunately it didn't go our way. So, Dawn, here's your opportunity to start firing questions.
Okay. Well, and again, as we've referenced, really a very good week last week. It was a big win against Salem, and then you're taking a first-place team in the conference to overtime. Actually had a chance to win at the end of regulation. But, of course, it's conference play. Another big week coming up this week. We have the trip to West Virginia State Wednesday night, and then Charleston comes back up here.
Yeah.
And maybe their record's not what it used to be, but, Charleston is a team that just knocked off the West Virginia State women. So it doesn't get any easier, but you have that week last week and the results and the stuff, and you talked about the players responding. Can you carry that momentum into this week?
Yeah, I think so. I think the first thing you have to do is you got to get over that loss hangover, which I think, the way we structured everything, they actually ended up with an off day yesterday because of the Sunday. You got to take one a week, all of those type things. So I think that gives us time to digest, to move on, and to move forward. And to no surprise, like seeing a lot of them throughout the day yesterday, it's, they are who we think they are. They're not just incredible people, but they get it. They lean into each other, they lean into us, and we move forward. And we're going to be ready, and we're going to have a good practice today. We're going to have a good game plan. We're going to tweak some things from the first time we saw State. But for us, it's not allowing State to speed you up in your mind. It's not always that they're forcing you into like a crazy turnover because they're just so active. It's you get sped up and you don't take the simple play. You get sped up and you don't have the poise to just in the moment do something. And then when you get stops against them, you got to value it. And then you got to go back at them and get a good look. And that's what we have to do. And then Charleston, you're going to see a polar opposite experience. You're going to see them try to grind it out, run sets, and try to attack mismatches the entire game. So we've got to be ready to play two conflicting styles of play. But for the next 48 hours, it's just West Virginia State.
Yeah. And again, you mentioned something about Wheeling, which is the last game we're coming off of, and the things that they do to, in your words, muck up the game, to slow things down. There's not nearly as many possessions in a Wheeling West Liberty game as there are in other games. For example, this West Virginia State team that we're coming up on, we're playing on Wednesday night, they're coming off a 104-101 loss with multiple possessions, 50 fouls called on, one team in that game, the tempo and everything. How difficult is it to shift those gears from one matchup to the next?
I think it is tough, but I think that's where you got to rely on your veterans, and I think that we have those. And I think that if we can follow and lean into them, along with all the strides we've taken, especially coming out of break, but since the last time we played these two opponents, I think it's very doable. But I think one of the things that's important, as you reference, State's coming off the loss hangover too, and a tough one. Which team can realign and get ready to go, and settle in early in this game, But we've got to do the first things first. We've got to win the backcourt against their pressure, and then realize you're going to have a great advantage situation if that's the reward. We got to keep them off the O boards and then get stops, and that reward is now you get to go play in transition and not see the pressure as much. So, there's so many things where if you can settle in to what makes us good against a team like that, the reward is you can play pretty free, and we like to play that way.
And finally, we've reached the midway point of the conference schedule now. You've played everybody in the league. You have a pretty good idea of what you have ahead of you. But we do have, because we've reached the midway point, still a lot of good basketball to be played. How do you and your coaching staff, how do you approach this final month of the season with the team?
Yeah, I think it's, the same thing that we've been doing since coming back from break. It's we've got to identify the things that we've got to own and get better in that we're capable of doing with the amount of time and reps you have. It's not like you have an endless amount of time to make huge tweaks, huge installs, change packages offensively, defensively. It's how do you take those things and make them better and get that buy-in. And I think this last week is a testament to we're seeing us do that. Now we've got to stay away from those moments I talked about in those couple stretches of a game where now you're not stubbing your toe to a point where you have to play uphill in moments. And it's going to be really important against two really good opponents this week.
Okay, Coach?
Well, Coach, thanks for joining us. It's going to be a good week. A West Virginia State team that was the preseason coaches picked to win the regular season, and a Charleston team that's been a perennial regional participant over years. So you got your work cut out for you. We wish you the best, and we'll catch up with you next Tuesday.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
That wraps up this first episode of Inside Hilltopper Athletics. We'll be back with head coach Ben Hallett.
Disasters happen. Pick the team that takes care of them all. Powered by offices in Wheeling, Morgantown, and Pittsburgh, Panhandle Cleaning and Restoration is ready to handle any size emergency at a moment's notice. We have the right people, knowledge, and equipment to respond 24 hours a day.
I'm Kyle Cooper. When disaster strikes your home or business, tell your insurance provider you prefer the restoration company the Hilltoppers call, Panhandle Cleaning and Restoration.
Inside Hilltopper Athletics is brought to you by Panhandle Cleaning and Restoration. Here's your host, Lynn.
Welcome to Inside Hilltopper Athletics. We're now joined by head men's basketball coach Ben Hallett. Coach, it was a good week.
Pretty good.
It helps my hairline and the nerves that you were able to put two opponents away pretty easily. So let's go back in time last Wednesday. I know that seems like a million years ago, but tell us about the Salem game.
I don't think we played too well in the first half, to be quite honest. I think we called it highlight video is what we called it in the locker room at halftime. I think we were just went out there and trying to play for ourselves. So not too pleased with the first half of the game, even though we had a substantial lead there at halftime. But thought we cleaned it up there in the second half and started playing more for each other rather than ourselves, and put a better taste in my mouth going into the Wheeling game for sure there than the second half. So we'll take the win.
So here's a question, because I'm ancient now and I haven't been in a locker room for a while. When you're watching film with your team and you're referencing there's another highlight reel attempt, what's their reaction? What do they say?
Some of them are still scared. Like, the freshmen are still scared of me at this point, but like the older guys know that I can kind of joke around about that stuff now. So I tell you who laughs at my jokes all the time is John Corte. Like I'm up there like watching film, cracking jokes, like saying, "No, we don't do that." He's just back there laughing his head off. So I am pretty sarcastic when it comes to film. But like we were doing that after a win, so we can have some fun with it. After a loss, it's not too pretty in there at times.
Well, I want to bring up just one more point and then we'll get to the Wheeling game. And I can't remember if we've talked about this previously or not, but I had told Dawn on the air, one of our greatest strengths is our passing. One of our biggest weaknesses is our passing. What do you think that means?
I think it means we can be really good passers when we want to and when we're willing to pass. And I think that also means we try to make the incredible pass. And we have a reputation of doing that, and some guys more than others. But we call them 50-50 or chance passes is what we call them. And we're probably leading the country in that category right now.
I call them hope passes. You hope that it gets through. And then I always reference when we play noontime ball, I like the highlight reel passes.
You do.
So I can at least relate to what they're thinking when they attempt to throw it. So anyway, we pretty much handled business against Salem. We're now welcoming a Wheeling University team that I think we all felt could be pretty dangerous. They were the only team to beat Charleston, and they have been in so many games. 2-3 minutes left, they're right there. So tell us your thoughts going into the game, and then tell us your thoughts after.
Yeah, so there are two games that really make me nervous on our schedule. It's senior night, number one, and rivalry games, number two. I think there's just so much leading up to those games that you never know what's going through your player's mind. But throughout the game, like I thought, it was just a weird game, and I think you and I have talked about it. It was just a weird flow to the game. And, at halftime, I a lot of times don't know the score of the game. I asked one of our assistants before we meet with the team, like, how much are we up by right now? And he said 24, and I said, you're kidding me. Like, it just didn't feel like, we had that type of lead or we were playing, that well at that point. But Wheeling's a tricky team because if you look at their scores, leading up to that game, they played in a ton of close games against good teams. And obviously, like you said, they beat Charleston, played State close, played Fairmont close. And we didn't need any motivation because we remember last year. And we went down there, and I think at that point we were second or third in the country. You'll know that, Don, but just didn't play hard and kind of took our foot off the gas and just assumed we were going to show up and win. And that was kind of the message before the game. Just remember last year against these guys and remember what got us to this point, playing hard. I think we're starting to play better, and let's not go backwards or lateral. Let's keep moving forward, and I thought for the most part we did.
So just to stay on the thought of Wheeling, what do you think you did really well in that game? It ended up 46, I think. So obviously you had to play well. What was the big difference?
I thought we did a really good job on Marcus Johnson. At this point, if you look at, from a statistical standpoint, he's in a different world right now. He's playing really well, and, he requires special attention. I think we gave him some special attention and had some guys step up and guard him. I thought, anyone who was on him knew it was going to be a challenge, but he's a tough cover just because of how big he is and how skilled. I think he's super skilled, and he's got the ability to shoot the basketball. He's got the ability to play inside. He's a really good passer. So I thought we did a good job on him. And I thought for the most part we kept our heads, and there were times where I thought this could implode a little bit with our guys, but I thought we kept our heads for the most part and just really focused on the game.
Yeah, it was pretty convincing from start to finish. And before I let Dawn torture you with some questions, I want to add to one thing. You said that you get nervous on senior night and rivalry games. And I think one of the things that I appreciate the most of being able to cover a program like we have here is we have more rivalry games than anybody because we're playing for championships and we're playing for regional seeding. So anybody that's a threat to that, the blue bloods in our program or in our conference, which has kind of been the Charleston Fairmonts the last few years, state as well, we consider that a rivalry game. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think we talked about it, and obviously we got some help with Charleston dropping a game, but the target's now even bigger on our chest. Everyone wants to beat us, and if you look, when we go on the road, we're going to get the other team's highest attended game of the year, and it just comes with the territory playing in West Liberty. But as a competitive person myself and the other 15 competitive guys in the room, like, it's what you want. You want that target, and you want other team's best shot, and you want to play in front of the other team's best crowds, and it makes it fun.
Well, Coach, and we are coming off of a great week, but it's really just been part of a great month of January. I'm a numbers guy, 6-0 in the month of January, averaging over 110 points a game, average margin of victory by more than 30 points a game. Of course, the question is, how do you keep it going?
Yeah, it's really tough. And I think, first off, we got to stay healthy, and we got no control over that. But right now, we're relatively healthy with our team, and then we just got to keep doing the things that we've been doing in the past couple weeks in practice. And I think we're finally starting to see those new guys, really buy into what we're doing. And like we talked about last week, it takes time, and they're going to continue to hopefully to get better at our system. And these guys are starting to realize winning cures a lot of problems. Winning, we were, remember the podcast after the Florida trip. It was not a fun podcast, and it wasn't a fun ride home, on the flight. And but winning cures a lot of problems, and I think guys are happy right now where we're 15-3, but we're not content with anything, and we know we've got a big week ahead this week, starting down at State on Wednesday.
Yeah, and speaking of that, Mountain East Conference basketball, it never gets easy, but this might be the toughest week on your schedule for the whole season. Now, you have a red-hot West Virginia State team coming up here, won 6 in a row. Last win was a road win at a number 23 ranked Charleston. And, of course, then Charleston is going to be coming up here Sunday.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's great for the fans. It's great for the broadcasters. It just sounds like two big headaches for the coaches.
No, we're looking forward to this. We want this week, and we've just got such a big opportunity right in front of our faces right now. And we talked about that yesterday. It's just sitting right in front of our face. Let's take it and run with it. And this game Wednesday is going to be a battle. They're playing really well. I think they've won 6 or 7 games in a row and played such a good game at Charleston. And mentioning individuals for them, Anthony Pittman was really good, really good. He was kind of unguardable at times, and I watched it live because we didn't play on Saturday. I got the benefit of watching it live, then I watched it on film, and I thought they just played a great game. And it's going to be a war there on Wednesday, and then obviously coming back here on Saturday, the team that punked us out a little bit at their place at the beginning of the year, and didn't think we played well down there at Charleston, and didn't think we played well here versus State. So 2 games that we've talked about, like, let's just be better. Let's West Liberty be a better basketball team and hopefully come away with 2 victories.
Yeah, and we referenced this a little bit earlier, but we talk about West Liberty basketball. We talk about postseason play, about regional rankings, tournaments, and stuff. And again, the calendar's about to shift into February. You like to keep your thumb on the pulse of the region and stuff like that. How do you think the region is shaping up now, or is it still a little too early to start scoreboard watching?
No, I've been scoreboard watching since November. To be honest with you, it's one of my hobbies is watching these other games. But I think as far as the region, 5 or 6 teams are starting to pull away. with things, and I don't know if that'll change or not, but I like where we sit right now, and our guys know that this is such a big week for not only conference but for the region. I think both State and Charleston, this is my guess, is I think they would be ranked or right around the top 8 right now, and for us, we know that. Our guys know that, and hopefully we can leave it all on the line and come up with 2 big wins, because it would mean a lot for us to win these 2 games come March.
What are the 2 challenges? You're playing 2 different teams, State, then Charleston. So are your keys to success the same in both of those games, or due to the matchup or whatever, maybe you're emphasizing one thing or another?
Yeah, I think it changes. Both teams provide different headaches for me. In State, it's as far as individual talent and ability to play one-on-one basketball, it's really high, and they've got the guys to do it. And with Charleston, it's more of a team concept, a team motion type of concept, and both provide serious challenges for us, because both of those teams have given us headaches, this past year. And if you go back and watch the State game, and this is what we'll talk about because we're playing them next, they got a bunch of uncontested layups against us. And it wasn't because of anything they were doing; it was because of us, and we're just not playing hard enough. And that needs to change, or it's going to be the same exact result on Wednesday. And I'll tell you this, we got lucky to beat them. If you remember, we lost to Charleston, didn't play well. Got very lucky to beat State here. We won by 2 points, and then we were down 17 at one point in the first half against these guys, and then lost 2 games in Florida. So it wasn't a good 4-game span for us, and we're looking to change that come Wednesday.
Well, it's going to be an exciting week, and as always, we're going to wish you the best and get down there and let's give it the best effort we can.
Yeah, thanks for having me on here.
That wraps up this week's edition of Inside Hilltopper Athletics. This section with Coach Hallett, currently first place in the Mountain East Conference, a 1-game lead with a chance to really make some headway. So that wraps it up. We'll see you next Tuesday.
Disasters happen. Pick the team that takes care of them all. Powered by offices in Wheeling, Morgantown, and Pittsburgh, Panhandle Cleaning and Restoration is ready to handle any size emergency at a moment's notice. We have the right people, knowledge, and equipment to respond 24 hours a day.
I'm Ben Hallett. When disaster strikes your home or business, tell your insurance provider you prefer the restoration company the Hilltoppers call, Panhandle Cleaning and Restoration.
Hi, I'm Jason Ake. I'm a grad student at West Liberty University, and I'm working on the Earthworm Lab. So we're attempting to study some invasive earthworms here on the campus property. We have a survey area where we go out and try and figure out how many they are, where they are, what species they are. Earthworms are really small, of course, and you don't really think about them, and you hear about them being good for gardens and all that. But these invasive earthworms live out in the woods, and they eat basically everything. They live in the dirt, they eat leaves, wood, take all the nutrients out of the forest. Plants can't grow, bugs can't find food. Even trees start dying because they run out of nutrients. So our end goal is just trying to get a better understanding of the species. We're using some new spatial analysis techniques. I really hope that we can include this research to write my master's thesis.
From humble beginnings in 1837, West Liberty University has been home to thousands of students. Whether you're a recent high school graduate or looking to complete a college degree later in life, starting your educational career at West Liberty University will be the catalyst for your future. This is a place where you will discover who you are and where you belong, surrounded by lifelong friends and a supportive faculty and staff. Start your journey home at westliberty.edu.